This is the Honda City HEV, the hybrid variant of the popular Honda City. So if you are choosing this, you are obviously choosing this for the extended range, the lower emissions, etc. So instead of doing a regular review, what we are going to do today is actually test the range of this vehicle in the city. And what better place to do it than Bangalore, which usually has a lot of traffic all throughout the day. So that's exactly what we are going to do. We are tanking it up. We are going to be driving in the city, in the crowd, and then coming back, refueling it and telling you what the range is going to be like. Right then, so let's get on with it. When you press that push button starter, the engine comes to life. It's not coming to life in a very silent manner like a regular electric vehicle. This is a hybrid after all, but the engine is also coming to life. You can hear the engine. That push button starter, it's got a red glow to it. I think they should have done a blue to go with that theme. They also have that blue tinge in the Honda logo. But anyway, so it doesn't necessarily come to life in a pure EV mode. It doesn't start off in a pure EV mode either. The engine is there. The engine will provide the power wherever required. Of course, this is for the most of its time running on the electric motor. The engine is powering the electric motor. It's also charging the battery at the same time. There is a eCVT transmission to facilitate this entire operation. But this is not a speed dependent or an RPM dependent system. It's more of a load dependent system. So it will choose when it needs the engine to cut in, when it needs the engine to start feeding power to the wheels as well. And most of the time, like I said, the electric motor will take care of most of it. So it's a load dependent system in that sense. So in theory, this system can work as a series hybrid or a parallel hybrid system depending on the driving conditions. So in simple words, there's an electric motor generator that will help charge the batteries, a second electric motor that powers the wheels for most of the time, and a petrol motor that mostly does the work of powering the motor generator and charging the batteries and only sends power to the wheels when the system thinks it is required. To that effect, there is no switch, there is no mode where you can go into a battery only mode or a hybrid only mode or an engine only mode. Don't expect any VTEC kicked in your moments because, come on, let's face it, you are essentially buying this car for the longer range, for the reduced emissions, etc. So that is clearly the priority even in terms of the engineering. So yes, this is still the VTEC motor, it's still a 1.5 VTEC, but it's running the more conservative Atkinson cycle. Now Atkinson cycles usually have a weak low end response, but that of course is taken care of by the hybrid system. The low end is taken care of by the battery, the electric motor, so you get that instantaneous torque, you get that instantaneous pulling capacity whenever you need. So it just negates the ill effects of the Atkinson motor. But like I said, there's going to be no VTEC kicked in yo. There is going to be no surge of power. Everything feels nice and linear. But when you're out on the highway, maybe when you're at higher speeds, when the engine does kick in, it also has a single ratio, a fixed ratio gear, one gear that will be engaged for the engine powering the wheels, and it will stick to that ratio. Now this ratio is designed in a way that it maximizes fuel economy. So what you're essentially getting is the advantage of a battery electric vehicle, which gives you that instantaneous low end. At the same time, because there's an engine, it also lets you get up to higher triple digit speeds without really compromising much on the range. So it's a best of both the worlds, and that is why I think hybrids are still very relevant. The engine is also designed to emulate the sounds of revving and gear shifting to give the driver a more natural driving feel, though you are never really shifting gears. Similarly, going pedal to the metal will also see the power display racing to its extreme end, and the engine will rev to what sounds like a red line, though it is never really over revving. 0 to 100 is around 10 seconds, and roll-on acceleration figures of 30 to 50 and 80 to 100 are around 2 seconds. More on that with a road test. But it tells you that the Honda City Hybrid is a fairly quick car, and overtakes don't need any planning at all without compromising on the range. Compared to the regular Honda City, you get an analog speedometer and you get a 7-inch display right in the instrumentation. That display essentially lets you cycle through different views and one of those views, the power view, will essentially tell you when the engine is coming on, when the battery is providing power, when the battery is being recharged. So all these animations will tell you exactly how the powertrain is performing. And the thing I told you about the single gear cruising that you get from the engine when the engine is powering the wheels, you get the symbol of a cog on that particular animation. So essentially, this system is theoretically different in some ways than the system employed by someone like Toyota. Not only in their Camry, but also in their upcoming hybrid vehicle, the strong hybrid vehicle that they are co-developing with Maruti Suzuki. In terms of the gearbox, don't let that ECVT word on the brochure fool you. It doesn't feel like a rubber band effect or even a torque converter for that matter, because it's the electric motor that is doing most of the driving at certain speeds like these or certain load conditions like these. The power, the torque delivery is instantaneous. So overtakes don't need any planning. Just step on the throttle and the vehicle will make rapid progress, just the way a regular battery electric vehicle would. On the gear selector, there are two drive modes. There is the D, which is the regular drive mode, and then there is the B. Now, B is not a pure battery mode. That is what a lot of people think out there. It's not. B stands for the brake mode. Now, brake mode essentially means that it will replicate the effects of engine braking. Like I said, there is no proper gearbox when the engine is powering the wheels. So there's no engine braking as such, but the brake mode will replicate the effects of engine braking. So essentially, when you're driving on the highway, or if you're say driving in a slightly more enthusiastic manner, or maybe if you're driving around winding roads and you want the effects of engine braking, the B mode is what you want. When you're cruising on the highway, the D mode is better, the drive mode is better, because it allows you to coast as well. And then you have the paddle shifters. Now these paddle shifters, like in electric vehicles, will let you change the level of regenerative braking that you want. So there are four modes. There's D, which is coasting, then there is the D, 1, 2 and 3. These modes will define how mild or aggressive you want the regenerative braking forces. These modes are temporary in the D mode though, and will go back to the default coasting mode within moments of driving. It is the B mode in which you can lock the level of regen to 1, 2 or 3. What about single pedal driving though? Bumper to bumper traffic may not be possible, but slow moving traffic like I am in right now, it is still possible. You engage the D3 mode and the regenerative braking becomes stronger, and that is where you can sort of control the pace of the car purely with the accelerator, but it will not come to a complete halt, which is why in bumper to bumper traffic you may not really have single pedal driving, but in slow moving traffic you can still somehow manage it. But it's not as effective as we've seen in proper electric vehicles, some of which allow you to come to a complete halt as well. So when you are at a red light like this, there is the automated start stop as well. It will kill the engine, but there is an auxiliary system that will keep running your air conditioning for you. So that's a very good thing, especially in places like these where you'll have to come to a halt every now and then. Despite the engine going off, you still have your air conditioning working, so the cabin still remains pleasant. And once you step on the throttle again, even if it's a minute throttle input, the system will come on. It will start off with the battery, and then the engine will cut in again whenever required. Like I said, it's a load-based system. Speaking of the braking, despite the regenerative braking and the physical brakes being married together, the feel is very natural, and it's only when the system thinks that the friction brakes need to be applied, only then they will come into play. Otherwise, it's the electric system that is taking care of most of the slowing down process. Continuing on the topic of braking, you also get an electronic parking brake, and there's also a brake hold function. So you can also use it like a hill hold to an extent when you're on a gradient, or when you're at a traffic light, you can simply press the brake hold and you can let go of the brake pedal. The vehicle will stay in place, it will not roll forward or backward. So that brake hold function is really effective and very useful. When driving over bad roads like I am right now, it doesn't feel any different than the regular Honda City. Of course, there is a battery pack, there's that motor, there's that additional weight, but at the same time, it doesn't make that additional weight evident in any way. It doesn't feel like you're carrying a lot of weight in the belly. It doesn't feel too heavy while going through potholes. This is something that we have experienced in electric vehicles, but not something that you will feel over here. It just feels very natural. That is also because the battery pack sits behind the rear seat and under the boot, and that does take away some of the boot space. But a space saver wheel and two mid-size suitcases won't be a problem at all. Rear seat space or comfort isn't compromised either. Being the range-topping ZX trim, 6 airbags and a host of other safety tech is standard on the City Hybrid. So in this unit right here, you get a forward-facing camera and a radar system which enables ADAS functions for this car. So you get adaptive cruise control, which is enabled using the cruise control switchgear on the steering wheel. It will also let you set what kind of distance you want. This is adaptive cruise control, of course. We've seen it in the past with other vehicles. So essentially what it means is, irrespective of what speed you set for the cruise control, if the vehicle in front of you slows down, this will automatically slow down. If any vehicle also cuts into your lane, then again, depending on the speed of that vehicle, it will again adapt, slow down, and then when that vehicle gets out and you have a clear road in front of you, it will again accelerate and come back to the set speed. Similarly, you have lane keep assist as well, and also what Honda likes to call the road departure mitigation system, RDMS. So essentially what they're saying is, even if there are no lane markings, it will detect the shoulders of the road or the limit of the road, and then ensure that you stay within that limit. If you start drifting away, it will try to bring you back in with gentle steering inputs. Now, honestly, it's not worked too well here, at least. We've tried it both in the city, on the outskirts as well. On the highway with clear lane markings, it works quite well. Even with broken lane markings, the lane keep assist works quite well, but the RDMS on some of the B roads hasn't really worked too well. It is intended for roads like that, but for us it hasn't in fact worked. It's actually given us an error most of the times, saying that RDMS has been disabled temporarily, and that's repetitively happening. So I've not seen the RDMS work too well, but the lane keep assist, at least on roads like these where the lane markings are at least barely visible, it's working quite well. You also have the forward collision warning with brake assist. So essentially, if there is an impending collision, it will give you full braking force even if you were to gently press the brake pedal. Of course, it depends on the distance between you and the obstruction in front of you. It could be a vehicle, it could be a bicyclist, it could be a pedestrian. It is designed to detect all of this. Hopefully cows as well. But yeah, that function is working quite well. And unlike some of the luxury cars in which we have seen this function, it's not too unnerving. On some of the luxury cars, it's so aggressive that it becomes unnerving. Here it's nice and gentle, even at the final limit where it's giving you almost full braking pressure for a gentle press of the brake pedal. It's not unnerving at all. So I like how this system has been designed. Similarly, lane keep assist is not too aggressive. It very gently brings you back in. The steering inputs are quite gentle as well. But if there is a big curve in the road, that it can't really mitigate. You will have to take full control of the steering wheel properly. That assistant will not really work that well. But of course, it is an assist. It's not automated driving. So it does work quite well. I'm glad that Honda has now brought this system to India, and they are saying that they will look at standardizing this system across all their models going forward. So let's hope even the smaller vehicles get that. And the beep that you're getting right now is essentially the vehicle that is in front of me is driving in and out of the lane, and it's sort of constantly warning me that I need to be alert. So essentially, this car gives you two very important things over the regular internal combustion engine Honda Cities. One is the hybrid powertrain, and two is the sensing forward-facing camera and radar system. So these two, I think, are two expensive systems. So my estimate is that Honda will charge about 19 lakh rupees ex-showroom for this car. It's only available in one trim, which is a ZX. So that pricing will certainly make it more expensive than the already expensive 1.5 DSG variant of the Slavia. But if you were to look at it from the perspective of range and emissions, I think this one just nails it, because the biggest complaint for the Slavia or even the Virtus is the presence of petrol-only options. There are no diesel options, so fuel economy is one of the biggest complaints there. And then the range obviously is going to matter. It's going to pinch with the current fuel costs. And if you want more practicality than something like the Honda City diesel or the diesel variants of other competition, then again the hybrid makes a lot of sense. Of course, it's not going to come cheap. Like I said, 19 lakh rupees will make it quite a stretch for a lot of people. In a dying segment that a sedan is right now, it is quite a big ask. But then if the emissions matter to you, the range matters to you, I think you will still see a lot of value with this particular car. Finally, let's just head to a fuel station and see what's the real world range we've got. And then it should help you make your calculations and make a more informed decision on whether to get this car or not. So, moment of truth. We have consumed about 2.85 liters of fuel. We did about 56 kilometers. So that figure is 19.64. So this figure is with all the traffic jams, the long red lights, all the bumper to bumper traffic. 19.64 from a petrol car. You get the point. This calculation is really good. It's all thanks to hybrid. That figure of over 19 kilometers to a litre is despite the traffic jams, city congestion and running the AC on full blast. It's phenomenal. So if your daily driving commutes are over 25 kilometers, the city hybrid is likely to give you a better return on your investment than any other car in this segment, crossovers and SUVs included. If Honda does price it around the 19 lakh rupee mark like I estimated, this would be the urban runabout that I would recommend for this space. So now can we also have the Jazz hybrid please, Honda?